Here's something we don't talk enough about. You can be surrounded by people and still feel deeply alone. You can have a busy day full of interactions and still crawl into bed feeling disconnected. And when that loneliness settles in, it doesn't just affect your mood, it can also shape your sleep. On today's episode, we will look at how social isolation can affect us at night as well. I'm Jay, and this is Somnilopod. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I can't tell you how excited I am and grateful that you are here to spend a few minutes with me. And hopefully, I've got some good information for you. I've been, with the holidays coming up, I've sort of been thinking about connection and community. And since I have moved to a more rural area, how that affects and how all of that interaction, or the lack of, affects people and how they sleep. So I wanted to take a look at that. Now, most people don't really realize how profoundly social connection affects the nervous system. We are wired to feel safer when we're part of a group. Historically, being alone meant vulnerability. So even though you're not sleeping in a cave anymore, hopefully, your brain still treats isolation as a kind of a threat signal. And as we have discussed in the past, threat signals do not mix well with rest. And today I want to break down how social isolation, whether it's living alone, feeling misunderstood, being physically distant from loved ones, or simply losing touch with your community, quietly disrupts your sleep patterns. And more importantly, what you can do to soften those long nights. Now, loneliness isn't just emotional, it's psychological. When you hear social isolation, they usually think of sadness or depression, but loneliness has a very real physiological signature. When you feel isolated, the body tends to shift into a low-level fight or flight mode, and as we have discussed, that's not a good thing. Cortisol rises, the hormone that is the stress hormone. Your heart rate variability drops, and your nervous system becomes a little jumpier and less willing to let its guard down at night. So what does this mean? It means that you may have difficulty sleeping. You may wake up more often. You may sleep a little lighter, and as a result of that, your sleep may be a little more fragile. You have more nighttime rumination, which, as many insomniacs know, can be a real pain in the patootie. But you may also have more vivid or unsettled dreams because your sleep is disrupted and you're waking up periodically throughout the night. So those dreams may be interrupted. Now, it's not just in your head. It's your whole system. Your brain interprets isolation as a lack of safety. And sleep requires the opposite, a sense of trust, belonging, of psychological security. And here's part of that fascinates me. Studies show that socially isolated people spend more time in hypervigilance, and that's a kind of internal scanning for threats. Even during sleep, your brain stays on alert. It listens for noise. It stays aware of the environment. It doesn't dive into deep sleep as easily. And if you've ever been a new parent, you probably have experienced all of those things because, of course, you're going to be hypervigilant. You're listening for your child. This goes back to an ancient survival mechanism. When you're alone, you're the only one on lookout, and there's no tribe sleeping beside you. No shared safety net. Even though this threat isn't real today, the biology hasn't quite caught up. So isolation keeps the internal guard dog awake long after your body is ready for rest. Loneliness also weighs down your emotional bandwidth. When you don't feel connected, you tend to carry more things like self-doubt, those ruminations that I talked about, unresolved feelings, mental fatigue, and anxiety. all of those become emotional noise that gets louder at night. And the brain loves to save unresolved issues for bedtime. So its favorite hour of replay, conversations, regrets, and what ifs. All of the daytime duties get pushed aside, and your brain has the time to be able to let this other stuff come to the surface. So that's where those ruminations can come from. Emotional overload is one of the biggest contributors to insomnia, and isolation can amplify that. This is especially true in rural areas, something some of you listeners may know well. People may live far apart, work long hours, or lack access to community space. Even when communities are tight-knit, schedules and distances can make connection feel scarce. And when connection becomes harder, sleep often becomes harder right alongside with it. And it can tend to be a vicious cycle or a loop, here's where the isolation really digs in. Poor sleep makes the loneliness feel worse, and the loneliness makes the sleep worse. So breaking this loop takes intentional effort, but the smallest shifts can really open doors to better sleep. You don't really need a big social circle. You don't need to be the life of the party. You don't need endless group activities. You just need a few points of genuine connection that signal safety to your brain. And here's what I'm talking about. Things like micro connections, a warm conversation with a cashier. Go to Walmart or go to your grocery store and just have a pleasant conversation while they're checking you out. A quick check-in with a neighbor or a short phone call, tiny touches of humanity register as safety cues. And you can also use this as part of your bedtime connection ritual. Sending a good night text or calling a friend. Even a short interaction can calm the nervous system. You can actually participate in scheduled, predictable events throughout the week. Our brain really likes things that happen over and over consistently. So weekly gatherings, classes, or groups that provide structure. And the brain loves that predictable connection. And you can reduce that emotional isolation. You may not feel physically alone, but emotionally disconnected at times. So sharing your day with someone, even briefly, can make a big difference. A lot of times we hear about hacks for your sleep, and this is one of those things. You can sort of trick your brain into thinking that you're a part of something by keeping some sort of background presence available. Soft music, podcasts, even comforting voices in the evening can reduce the sense of being alone and help the nervous system settle down just a little bit. And be intentional before bed. Loneliness tends to spike at night, as I've mentioned. For me, it sometimes feels like the world is closing in a bit as the darkness falls around me. So instead of letting that hit, preempt it with winding down rituals that ground and soothe. And people often think sleep problems come from the bedroom. Bad pillows, too much blue light, the wrong temperature, and those matter, but sleep is shaped by so much more than the mattress that you lie on. It's shaped by the world you live in, the people you talk to, and the sense of belonging you carry. Isolation doesn't just hurt your feelings, it changes your psychology, your stress level, and the way your brain approaches the night. But the moment you start building even tiny threads of connection, sleep starts responding. Nights get softer, the mind gets quieter, and the body finally feels safe enough to rest. I hope this has been interesting for you. If it has, and if you've learned something, please remember to subscribe or like or follow, depending upon where you're getting this information. If you're watching things on YouTube, click all of the appropriate buttons, if you would, please. That really helps me out. And if you have any questions, comments about future episodes, please reach out to me. You can touch base with me at j@somnilopod.com. You can also reach me through the socials, YouTube, and Facebook. And until we talk again, please remember to make sleep a priority. Thanks so much.